Alrighty guys, welcome back to the final video on the motor build. This will be part 5 of our build series, so if you are just tuning in, go check out the last 4 videos on the motor build and really the whole KTM build. Now, a lot of you are waiting for this last video, and thank you for hanging with me. I've been really busy lately. I am a teacher and I've been getting ready for school and things like that over the last couple weeks and kind of just getting in my groove. So thanks for being patient with me. We're going to dive in. We're going to finish this thing today. We're going to call it good, and then we're going to move on to the frame. We're going to start stabbing stuff together and hopefully get this bike done. My goal to get this bike done is by the end of October, so hopefully before the snow flies here locally, so that way we can hit snowmobile season really hard. So anyway, let's do it. All right, for parts, we've got some good ones here. We've got a Namura Technologies piston, wrist pin and rings, along with our circlips. We've got a 60mm base gasket, which is the stock size. We've got our head gasket, our head, and then of course our cylinder, and a Pepsi, a cold one, so we can bust this baby out. So we're going to talk about a couple things here. We'll dive into it as we go through the process, but the very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to check our ring end gap on our pistons. We should always do that before we ever install a top end to make sure that it jives with our cylinder. So let's do that right now. When we're checking ring gap, what we're doing is we're actually inserting the piston ring into the cylinder, and then when the cylinder compresses the ring, due to the ring being larger obviously, what is left over is this ring gap right here, and we want to check to see what that ring gap ends up being. And that fluctuates. So OEM KTM specs I think are 0.025 inches to 0.040 inches if I remember right, but the Namura Technologies recommends 0.01 inches to 0.035 inches. That's the range, so pretty broad. Now I've gone ahead and checked these anyway, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. It's a very simple process. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to lube up our cylinder, lube up the edge of our ring. We're going to set it in there, and then we're going to take a feeler gauge and we're going to measure this distance right here. Both of these measured out to be between 0.013 and 0.018 between the two of them, so we're within spec. We're actually on the tight side, which is good. Better to be on the loose side than the tight side, to be totally honest, but we're within spec, so that's where we want to be. But let me show you real quick how to do that. Okay, I'm just going to take a little bit of 2-stroke oil and I'm just going to coat the inside of the cylinder right here where I'm going to place my ring, and I'm just doing this for lubrication purposes, just to you know, I don't want to scratch the Nicosil or anything like that. Okay, the easiest way to put the ring in that I've found is to just squeeze the ring, slide it in, get down to where you want it to be, and then you're just going to roll it. Okay, so you want to be down probably about, I don't know, 10%, 15% of the way into the cylinder, and then you can just roll the ring like so. And let me kind of tilt this so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Just roll the ring, and then what you're going to want to do is take your piston, your beautiful brand new piston, and you're just going to set it in there, and the piston is going to straighten the whole thing up just like that. Okay, so there we go. You can see that our ring is now installed, and hopefully the lighting is working for you guys. You can see that's where our end gap would be. Now at this point I'm going to take my feeler gauges and find my spec right here, which, like I said, if I remember on this one I was at 0.013 inches, which should be this one right here, and I'm just going to put this in, and it's kind of one of those deals where, yep, right there. Okay, so I've got just a little bit of drag on it, and that's what I want. So easy way to check your piston ring end gap, very, very crucial. Make sure that you do it. If you're out of spec, okay, what you're going to do is you're just going to take a very fine file, and you're just going to file the end of that ring gap ever so slightly until you get it to where you want it, without creating burrs and edges. Personally, I've actually never had to file ring end gaps before, so I've been lucky, but that's how you would do it. Okay, go look up videos on how to do that on YouTube, and you know, do your do your research on thumper talk and things like that, and you'll get some good ideas there. But luckily I've never had to do it. Everything's been within spec. So okay, now that we know our ring end gap, we're going to go get ready to put our piston in. Right now we're going to go ahead and prep our piston to be installed, and I do this way, and I always have done this anytime that I've done a top end. What I like to do is I like to just install my piston rings on the piston before I ever put it up on the con rod. The reason being is once it's on the con rod, it's kind of floppy and loose unless you have built a little holding block or stuffed some towels in there or anything like that, and it just makes it a whole heck of a lot easier to put your piston rings on now. So just gonna take some 2-stroke oil, just lube up the valleys here of my piston, get everything nice and slick. I'm using the Caster 927, so there's a lot of love and a lot of hate for that oil, but it's good stuff, and honestly it smells the best, so we're gonna run it. Okay, now as far as installing your piston rings, be careful not to overexpand them and break them, because it's very easy to do. On these Namura rings, they are not directional from what I am reading and understanding, and they are the exact same part number for the top and the bottom ring. So rule of thumb is riding goes up always, and we're going to install our first ring first. It would be our second ring, I guess you would call it. And you can see there's 2 pins there. Those are guide pins, and what those do is they keep the ring from sliding once it's in there. So we're going to go ahead, put this on, and I like to just lay my ring right on the edge of the piston. And this is a coated piston. This is a coated top and then coated on the exhaust and intake side, so we want to be really careful not to scratch the coating. Alright, but I'm just going to open the ring, and you can see it already fell into the slot for the top ring. It was that simple. So what I'm going to do now is just take my next one and I'm going to move it below that, and then I'm just going to try to walk my ring out just a little bit and get it to drop in the correct slot. And once you get it out of the groove, it usually just goes all by itself. So pretty easy process to get these on, but they can be a bit of a bear sometimes. So just be careful not to try to get them below and scratch your stuff up. So okay, there's the bottom one installed, and you can see when I clamp that together, when I press the ring together, that's where it should stop, so the ring will not over rotate. Okay, there's our rings installed. We'll just kind of set this to the side. We're going to move on to our actual motor now. Okie dokie, onto our con rod. I'm going to pull our wrist pin bearing out, and I'm just going to dip it in my oil here. Make sure I get it lubed up nicely, because we don't want a dry start. Now everything here regarding the top end, all of this comes in contact with, being that it's a 2-stroke, everything here is lubricated using the 2-stroke mix, unlike a 4-stroke where everything would be oil fed through a oil pump and lubricated that way. So that is the benefits of a 2-stroke, is your mix determines your lubrication on the engine. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is put on our base gasket, so I don't forget, because I probably will. This is a 6mm base gasket. This is what KTM recommends, that way you get a 0 tolerance on your head when you install it. So I'm just going to slide this baby over, making sure that our surfaces are clean, and I'm not going to put any grease on this gasket. I really never have on base gaskets on a cylinder before, just on case halves and a couple random other parts. So okay, that's done. Now we'll take our piston. Our piston has an orientation on it. This piston in particular, as you can see right here, it says, hopefully you can see it, exhaust valve arrow facing that way. So our exhaust direction would be this way on the piston. So we want to make sure that we install that the correct way. So the Namura logo will face the carburetor. Okay. Now, one thing I forgot to do, actually, that I need to do it right now, is I need to install a circlip on one side of this piston. So let's do that really fast before we get to putting it on. It will save us a lot of heartache and trouble. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and install our circlips here. This can be a pain in the butt, and yeah, it can just be a pain in the butt, okay? Circlip goes in there, you can see the groove that it rides in. And what I've found to be the easiest way whenever doing this is to just take a flathead screwdriver. You don't want to mar up your surface on your piston. You're going to insert your circlip so that you get one point in, and then you're just, whoops, hold on. Hopefully you guys can see this on camera. I'm trying to get the best angle possible for you guys. Kind of a pain. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use my thumb to hold it where it's supposed to be. Use the screwdriver to just push it over, and then it should pop right in. It should go right home where it should be, without too much grief. God, these can be a pain in the neck. I really hate working with circlips, to be totally honest with you. This is like the most annoying part of the entire build process right here. So, and each piston is different depending on how far out the circlip sits. This one's actually pretty dang deep. So, just gonna, ouch, mother. Alright, so we got it started there. I'm gonna push it all the way in until it snaps, which is right there. And then Namura says 12 o'clock position is where it wants to be. 12 or 6 o'clock position, not where we actually have it. So I'm going to get a pick, and we're just going to rotate this clip. A little lubrication would also help with that. Let me grab a pick real quick and we'll rotate it. Now, to be totally honest with you, is it crucial that this sits at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock position? I really don't know, because there are arguments on the internet left and right as to what is supposed to happen that way, and I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I have never had a circlip pop out ever. I've heard horror stories of them popping out and, you know, eating the motor up, but myself, I've never heard of it. So yeah, I got that caught right in that valley right there. So what it's doing is, as I'm trying to rotate this up, the ring is getting stuck on its way up. So maybe I can do this like so and get it going. I think I got it right there. Yep, okay. Anyway, Namura says 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock position. So I'm going to go to the 12 o'clock position with this one, and then that will suffice what they're asking for. Okay. Now, in an instance where you're putting the circlip in and you get a burr here, or you scratch it up and it's got a raised surface, just take a little file, a small fine file, and just kind of clean that burr off. I don't have any right here, but sometimes you can accidentally ding this because it's an aluminum piston, so just be very careful with it. But now that that's installed, when I turn my piston around, I can put my wrist pin in, and my wrist pin won't fall out the other side, and I won't have to do both pins on the motor, because it can be a pain. Okay, now for the fun part, before we get too carried away here, I want to put some rags just in my motor right here, because if I drop that circlip in here, I will be madder than mad if I lose that into the crank bottom, and then everything that we have done up to this point was all for nothing, because we have to tear it all back apart. So we're going to plug those right there, and then I'm just going to put one more right here, so it covers the opening on the coolant pass. Okay, and that should protect us from a falling circlip. We're going to take our wrist pin and just lube it up. Take some 2-stroke oil, lube it up really good. Take our piston. Remember, orienting the correct direction on the piston. You're going to slide it on, and then just put your wrist pin right through. It should just slide right in, like so, and all the way to the back, and there we go. Our piston is on. We just got to put our circlip in, and this is where it gets really fun, because this wants to move all the time. So I have done it a couple different ways. I put like a block under here or under here and just kind of supported the piston. That helps a lot. I actually don't have anything right now that works, so I'm just going to let the piston just kind of rest where it needs to while I put this circlip in. So bear with me while I install this circlip. And of course the crank wants to rotate on me. Okay, that did work out a lot smoother than the last one. Now I'm just going to push this in until it snaps. And that is it. Okay, we are in. Not too bad. Alright, that is our piston installed. Now I'm just going to put some oil all over this piston. I just want to coat it. Give it a great chance at startup to have adequate lubrication. Can never have too much lube. I mean, I guess you could, but not in this scenario, hopefully. We're going to do the same to the cylinder. I'm just going to lubricate the inside of my cylinder the same way. Remember our little positioning dowels on our piston right there where our rings will collapse to. We want to make sure that that is set up perfect. We're going to work one ring at a time, one set at a time. There's an easy way to do this I will show you right now. Okay, make sure your base gasket is on. Make sure you've lubed everything up as we have. And what we're going to do is, being that your cylinder has a skirt here and a skirt there, you're able to squeeze the rings in this area and slide the piston over. And you just want to be ever so gentle not to mess anything up, and make sure that you're straight. Easier said than done. I'm going to try to do this on camera so you guys can see exactly how to do it. And you can use the cylinder to kind of help you compress the rings, not a problem. And I think I got that one in right there, and yep, barely slid over. And now I've already got it compressing down there on the bottom, and I just need to turn my rings just barely, get them in their home, and then it should slide right over the second set of rings fairly easily. Okay, just like that. It's not hard. You just have to be very, very smooth with it. Okay, and at that point, by the way, your piston rings will not go on, or your cylinder will not go over your piston rings if they are misaligned. So don't worry too much about that, okay? And basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to slowly lower it down. I'm going to get to the kind of bottom dead center of my crank, and then everything should just slide on hunky-dory, no problem, just like that, okay? Boom. Okay, now the one thing I didn't talk about here, and you know what, let me rotate this up a little bit, and then I will show you what I'm gonna talk about here. Oh yeah, okay, pistons to the top dead center. One thing I didn't talk about here is, if I pull this up, let me get it up here just a little bit, you've got your, there we go, you've got your exhaust valve workings right here. You need to make sure that that aligns with the slot there. I totally forgot to talk about that right there, but I have already checked mine and made sure that it lined up perfectly, so I'm going to double check it though. And then, yep, okay, it lines up perfectly. So now if you're unsure whether or not that exhaust valve lined up perfectly, this little door right here, let me turn the camera for you. This little door right here is an inspection door. You can take it off and you can just see that your exhaust valve is lined up. So go ahead and do that if you're unsure, but pretty easy. It'll jam up really bad if it's not in line, so don't stress too much about it. But there it is. There is our cylinder on. Okie dokie. Now that we got our head on there, we're gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on our head bolts here, our head where our nuts are going to thread on, because as you can see on this one, just a little bit right there, there's a little bit of corrosion, and it just happens over time. It just gets a little bit of tiny bit of corrosion on it. So I'm just using some nickel anti-seize, and I'm talking like just a little bit. So like that right there, and that is too much right there, definitely. There we go. I'm gonna do the other side, and this is just gonna keep me from seizing up, and a little bit goes a long ways. If you guys have ever worked with anti-seize, you know that you get some on your hand, you're gonna get it all over the place. So don't do that. Okay, now I'm gonna fast forward through this. I'm gonna thread my nuts on my studs here, and then we'll come back and we'll torque these, and I'll give you the torque spec on them. All right, got my nuts threaded down. Now I don't have the tool to torque these, but Motion Pro makes a torque wrench that basically is just your normal wrench like this, and it's got an adapter on it for a 3/8 ratchet, and it allows you to put the wrench over the nut and then torque it. Being that the nut, as you can see, recesses into the head there, or into the cylinder, sorry, you can't get a socket over it to torque it. So I don't stress too much about it. I just go ahead and tighten these equally in a, you know, crisscross pattern. So I'll tighten this down till it's pretty snug. I'll come back over here across my cylinder, tighten this side until, you know, we're snug. Then I'll come back, come over here, do this one, and I'll just go back and forth. And then I won't get too crazy on torque because, like I said, I think I told you the torque spec is 30 Newton meters if I remember right on this. So don't quote me, do your own research. But yeah, so I'm just gonna bounce back and forth, and I'm just gonna snug them up really good. And I'm not gonna worry about it again. Look, there's that anti-seize I told you not to get all over on my hand. So it's not super tight, to be honest. If it was super tight, I think they would make them a lot easier to access and give you a, you know, give you a better option. But never had a problem here. Don't be intimidated by the small stuff. Torque specs are important, yes, but if you don't know, just use your head, be smart, know the size of the bolt, know the size of the nut, and just, you know, be smart. All right, now on the 04 KTM 125SX, we want to check this, okay? It's a 0 tolerance spec on this particular model. Now the other models, the different years, have a different spec, but what I'm going to try to explain to you guys what this is. So here we've got where our head is going to sit, and our O-ring is going to seal. Here we have a chamfered edge right there, and then there we have our piston. From this top edge of our cylinder to the top edge of our piston should be 0. It should be perfectly flat. I'm going to rotate this and kind of show you guys where it should be. But if I rotate my piston, you can see, now you can no longer see the chamfered edge, okay? Right there. So let me rotate this just a hair. There, now you see the chamfered edge? Now you don't. Now you do. Now you don't. Okay, so on this motor, that 6mm gasket is what you need in order to get that perfect tolerance, and as long as your piston is obviously the right one and the correct size. But so we're good to go there. Okay, last thing we have to do is install our head. Alrighty, to install our head, we're going to put our O-ring in first, lube it up with a little 2-stroke oil, insert it into the head itself, or sorry, the cylinder, and we'll take our head gasket, and it only goes on one direction, and that is with the tab, whoops, sorry, that is with the tab facing the exhaust side. So right there would be where we want it. Okay, and then last but not least will be, of course, our head itself. You can't really get this wrong. The coolant pass faces the exhaust side, so you'll just set it right down on top, and then of course line everything up with your bolts. Now your bolts have a copper washer on them. Make sure you got that copper washer there, and we'll put these in. I did put just a little bit of oil on the threads of these bolts. Okay, now that we've got them zipped in, we're going to go ahead and torque them in a crisscross pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just keep repeating our rotation. It is 18 Newton meters for our head bolts. Guys, the motor's officially done. I couldn't be happier with it. I kind of wonder if I should have gone with a different color on the head, but I think I like it. I think I like the whole vapor honed look. It looks really, really good. So I'm gonna put a link down here to Josh Traxler's Instagram. He did the vapor honing for me, did a killer job. The motor looks amazing. Everything just worked out so smoothly with it. It is finally buttoned up. Now we can move on to the frame, the wheels, everything else like that, and get everything going. So bear with me, guys, on the videos coming up. Got things going on in life. You know, I wish YouTube was my way of making a living, but right now it's not. So you know, I have to put priorities first: family, career, and then of course I can start working on hobbies, which is this. So bear with me while I get a lot of other stuff ready. So tell me what you think of the motor. I'm going to throw in some B-roll, and yeah, if you guys have any questions, throw it down below in the comments. Please leave some comments. Please share this video, get it out. It helps me a lot as far as with views go and things like that. Get me some exposure. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. I wanted to finish this up before we got to 1,000. We did it, and yeah, hopefully I have a I'm trying to make up a 1,000 subscriber video to kind of talk about the journey of YouTube and how crazy it has been for me. So yeah, okay guys, that being said, all the tools I used I linked down below. Go check out the links, helps me out. If you guys use the Amazon links, it's a super awesome program that gives me a little bit of kickback, so go check it out. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.